Welcome to Insights from Improving Student Learning Data in a Research University. My name is Doug Foster. I'm the Vice President of IT and Chief Information Officer at the University of South Carolina. My colleague Pam Bowers is going to join me, and she'll walk through a little more of the detail on the background of how we got to our system and our processes, and I'll walk you through the technology a little bit later on.
Thank you. I want to start by asking you to picture a traditional college transcript. It shows the courses completed and the grades earned, but it doesn't really name the skills, the specific skills or knowledge that a student gained. Transcripts weren't really created to be reports of student learning in college, but they really are the only official report of performance that a college provides. They were actually created for the purpose of communicating information about courses when students transfer from one institution to another. And technically, a transcript is a report of institutional data available in student information systems. And reports can only include the data that's available for reporting, and the data available for reporting in a traditional transcript doesn't include student learning achievements. So traditional transcripts don't really report what students know and can do as a result of their college experiences, because that information isn't available for reporting. Colleges and universities provide a wide array of co-curricular programs, services, events, activities, all designed to help students persist, thrive, graduate, and succeed in college. These co-curricular activities usually don't produce grades or credit hours, and they don't count toward graduation, but we believe they do contribute to student learning and development and to students' readiness to launch a career. So colleges engage students in co-curricular activities in order to help them effectively transition to the college campus, to build a social network and a sense of belonging on campus, to explore major and career options, to get involved, to explore new interests and to learn about themselves, to learn to be a good citizen, to engage in the community and develop leadership skills, and you could say to build career capital, to practice and develop skills that are transferable to the workplace. At the University of South Carolina, we believe that these activities contribute to student learning and success, so we set out to improve our data about these experiences. We wanted to improve our data so that we could improve our ability to examine how these experiences contribute to the student outcomes we set out to produce, primary among those, of course, student learning and timely graduation. And we wanted to make the educational purpose and deliberate design of these experiences more visible to students and other stakeholders to help them understand how these experiences add educational value to the overall college experience. So our method for doing this was to define and document the educational purpose and design of each experience, and then to systematically record student completion and to integrate these new records with academic records in our institutional data. So we improved our student learning data by doing this. It now includes records of student engagement and learning that previously weren't accessible or of high quality. And since, as mentioned earlier, since a transcript is actually a report of available data, by integrating these new records into our student information system, we're now able to report a more comprehensive record of each student's unique learning experiences at the University of South Carolina in an extended transcript. Courses and degree programs have always been defined and recorded in institutional data, but co-curricular programs, usually non-credit bearing, are not. Because student participation in these programs isn't required for graduation, records of student participation in these activities are typically kept at the department level. And actually data practices for both credit-bearing and non-credit-bearing high-impact practice programs, things like study abroad, internships, undergrad research, peer leadership roles, they actually have some similarities. These experiences are often recommended but not required for degree programs. And even credit-bearing high-impact practices are often structured differently across departments within an institution, and they're not recorded in institutional data using standard practices and naming conventions across the institution. So a variety of systems have been created over time to help departments manage these records. For example, our Career Center uses one vendor system, our Student Success Center uses another, and our Study Abroad office uses yet another system. Beyond the Classroom Matters, this system we've developed was designed to bring these records together to provide a more comprehensive education record for each student and to improve our institutional data about the student experience on our campus. When a student completes a documented high-impact practice or co-curricular engagement, as we call these documented activities, they can log in and see their set of My U of SC experience records. And each student's advisor can also log in and see their advisees' records, excluding any record that a student has marked to keep private. And advisors can then use these records to inform a more holistic advising process. They can help the student, for example, be more intentional in the activities that they choose to engage in. They can help the student explore how their unique aptitudes and interests align with these different activities and how these activities relate to the student's major and intended career field. And they can help students think about what they've learned in these experiences and how they develop skills that are transferable to a future workplace. This illustrates the documentation of the educational purpose and design of each recorded engagement activity. So again, think about a course syllabus. It names the learning outcomes the course is intended to produce, and then it describes the learning activities that the educator has designed to produce those outcomes. For example, the assigned text, assignments for the course, projects the students are asked to do, lectures and discussions the student and educator will engage in. In Beyond the Classroom Matters, a similar process is used to document the educational purpose and deliberate design of each engagement. So when students or advisors view a student's records, each record is linked to the full catalog description of that engagement, and that can help students reflect on their learning in the experience. And this information can also help students understand on the front end of the activity the engagements for the expectations for their involvement, and can help them select activities suited to their personal and career interests and educational needs. And we found that the defining language also helps students recognize that they are applying knowledge and practicing skills that are transferable to a future workplace, and that it can help them improve their ability to describe these transferable skills to a future prospective employer. Each component of the record is defined in the published description in a catalog, which provides further clarity about the engagement. This example shows the language used to define leadership, for example, as it is demonstrated in this engagement activity. So educators who engage the student in the activity and advisors who can help students think about all of their experiences can help students think about, reflect on how they applied and practiced the defined skills, leadership in this example, and what they gained from that. By improving our institutional data on student engagement and learning, we're able to produce this report, an official extended transcript that reports records of student engagement in high-impact practices and the co-curriculum. The engagement and learning reported here, that's reported by the educators who engage the students, not by the students themselves. No student self-reported information is included here. And both credit-bearing and non-credit-bearing high-impact practices are reported here, providing supplemental information that's not reported on academic transcripts, such as an internship job title, the employer name and location, or for independent research, it reports the project title and the name of the faculty mentor. This extended transcript isn't intended to replace the academic transcript for credit-bearing experiences. It supplements it by reporting additional information about the experience. The knowledge applied and skills practiced are reported here as defined in the catalog entry shown earlier. Unlike the academic transcripts, the student can select from their records to create different versions of an extended transcript. Maybe they'll create one version for a prospective employer and another version for a prospective graduate or professional program. And administrators and data analysts can access these records in several ways. One example of that is illustrated here with this screenshot of one of our interactive dashboards that shows data using the filters that are highlighted in the screenshot. So you can see by looking at this screenshot that the filters are selected for a fall 2019 term for the Columbia campus. And this was the filter to show the records of students enrolled in the College of Arts and Sciences is selected, and 5 engagement activities are selected, the 5 different types of study abroad programs. So the pie charts on the right show disaggregated data of the students who are selected using those filters, the student records selected using those filters. So it shows the admission type of those students when they entered the university. It breaks that out by race, by gender, by first generation status, by Pell eligible status, and by student classification. So this can aid administrators and educators in determining the extent to which target populations are engaging in these activities, and can improves our institutional ability to analyze our efforts to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of our programs.
So one of the big pieces to our process is a system that we call Beyond the Classroom Matters. And Beyond the Classroom Matters is a series of processes and tools and some software that's involved in this as well. And the kinds of things that are really important and critical to understand about this are we have to provide training. We have to have materials available for people on demand to train on how to use the tools and how to actually set up proposals. A big part of the system is getting learning engagements established in the system, and they come in the form of proposals from faculty and different units across campus. So they need very solid training in how to do that. The proposal process itself is done electronically, so people can submit those at any time, 24/7, and they walk through a process to be approved by a committee that's been formed that helps decide in what category these engagements go and whether or not they even make it to the engagement catalog ultimately. The engagement catalog is the ultimate repository for where we keep all of the records of the different high-impact practices, and that's the software piece of it. That's where that lands to ultimately sit in the system and for people to use that engagement or participate in that engagement, and then those records get associated with each student, so then you have a sort of a blend of a student and engagement record, and then we can do lots of reporting on that. Another really key component to the system, the process Beyond the Classroom Matters, is data. Data is coming from many, many different places. We need data records from our student systems. We need, obviously, all of the engagements. We need data about all of the students in particular. We need their class schedules. We need any other sort of engagements they do in career center activities, those kinds of things. And the process to bring all of that together, it has been completely automated so that people don't have to be keying records or doing those kinds of things. They're coming from many, many different systems, and it all comes together. It gets extracted from those systems, transformed into the right format, and then loaded into BTCM automatically. So the integrity of the data is maintained through that whole process, because that's really a really critical component to this, is that the data has to be very high quality, has to reflect exactly what a student would expect to see from their records from multiple systems across our campus. We have about a half a dozen direct interfaces, and we also have a mechanism by which people can submit records manually as well. So the core of the Beyond the Classroom Matters tool set is the repository of engagements, the activities that a student participates in. But there are a number of other auxiliary IT components to this. One of them is a robust reporting, data visualization component, because there's really not much value in collecting all this data if we're not using it, and it's used in a lot of different ways. It can be used to look at how underrepresented minorities are participating in programs and what impact that's having on outcomes such as GPA and time to graduation and those sorts of things. We're also cognizant of the fact that not everybody that engages with the system is going to completely understand how to use it and what to do. So we've established a service desk that's dedicated to this process, and that service desk is available to them around the clock, which for students is really super helpful, because this is not something that they would be doing probably in core time. This is definitely an off-hours kind of activity. And the last piece is, as different units around campus or students or advisors start to engage with the system, there's always activities that they want to try to perform, things they want to try to do. And in order to enable that, we also offer them sort of on-site consulting. So we go and sit with them, talk about what it is they're trying to accomplish exactly, and we can help them sort of adapt the system and what processes do they need to follow in order to get what they're trying to get from the system. So when you start to take on an initiative like this, many make the mistake to think that this is a technology implementation. And there are certainly technology components to this, and there is a system behind it. But the keys to success here are really more about how you engage people, which people you're engaging, and there's sort of a mindset around this. So one of the keys I would say to many IT initiatives, and this one is no exception, that executive sponsorship here is really, really important. If this is viewed as something that's departmental and it's not viewed as a university-wide kind of initiative and doesn't get that sort of weight behind it, you'll have a hard time getting adoption, and you're less likely to get the sort of momentum that you need to get this off the ground. The other piece of this that's absolutely critical is faculty involvement, faculty governance. These are, after all, learning records. This is about educating students. And if you don't engage faculty in the right way to be involved in sort of the vetting of these engagements and helping to sort of define their connection to learning outcomes, you run the risk of, you run a credibility risk problem. So that's another really key component. And in some cases, there has to be some policy or at a minimum procedures set up that define rules around how this happens, and how do you, what are sort of the boundaries and what's acceptable, what kinds of things should be put into engagements, and sometimes that would necessitate a policy, many times it's just a procedure. So one of the things that's really critically important to this is that the university is open to innovation. The other piece is there's a lot of work involved in getting this off the ground. This isn't something that is going to happen by itself, and the university has to make a commitment to make this happen and make it a priority. Help with communication and messaging and those kinds of things, but also dedicate resources to get this done. A critical component that I've mentioned before is the data. So the commitment to the fidelity of the data, the fidelity of the implementation is absolutely critical. If people are sloppy, don't pay as much attention as they should to the data and how accurate it is, the system will fall apart. People's sort of confidence in the system will start to wane, and then you sort of lose interest. And I think the last thing I would say on process is whatever you do in your first go-round is you're not done, and you have to put a mindset of continual improvement into this and to keep working on process, keep working on the system, keep working on engagements and bringing things together, involving more faculty, those kinds of things. And they're all really critical to making this a success. One of the other things to recognize about a system like BTCM is that typical use of the system will be for students to engage with. Students can use it to both see the activities, engagements they've been part of through their college career. but it also gives them an opportunity to reflect on those things, extract meaning and learning from their engagements. So that's a really critical component of this. So there is definitely a student view to this, but there are a lot of other uses for the data. Another key constituent group in this is advisors. As advisors sit with students and they can have access to all of the engagements and the activities that a student has been part of, they can help to guide them on activities that might make sense for their major. They can help to point out holes in their experiences and things that they might want to focus on, and they get more of a holistic learner record. They can see all of the grades in the classes and all of their experiences and engagements. And so that's another really important component. One that we think will become much more important going forward is employer view into this. So as employers start to engage with the system, they can do things like look for particular skill sets. I'm not only looking for someone with a particular major or a particular degree or a particular performance like a grade point average, but I can also look for particular skills, leadership, communication skills, those kinds of things that are highlighted through the learner record and through these engagements. And we think that will be really, really important for students as they're sort of making their way into the marketplace for their employers to be able to engage and connect up. And lastly, a really interesting component to this that's come to light as we've started to gather this data is that we can really do a lot of research on the data and really dig into the analysis of every kind of imaginable cut of the data that you can think of, whether you want to look at a particular population of students, like, as I mentioned earlier, underrepresented minorities. You can look at particular kinds of engagements, how particular populations are engaging with different opportunities on campus. You can also tie those back to learner records and learning outcomes like grade point average and time to graduation to see, are there correlations between particular engagements and sets of students, constituent groups, and particular outcomes or grade point averages. And that's proven to be a really powerful piece of this tool. I'm going to turn it over to Pam now, who will close out for us, and she'll give you a little further reading if you're interested to pursue this a little bit further. So thank you.
If you'd like to read more on the topic of improving student learning data, I'd like to offer up this book that includes profiles of innovative practice in documenting student learning on 6 different campuses, including the University of South Carolina. These campus profiles are featured in the last 6 chapters of the book, and the first 8 chapters explore challenges and discuss ideas on issues surrounding student learning data. The book actually focuses on 3 related issues that many of our campuses seem to be interested in regarding student learning data. For example, many of us, certainly on our campus, we'd like to improve our ability to report individual student learning in a transcript or through other means. And we want to improve our effectiveness by conducting student success analyses that include student learning as a variable. And for accreditation purposes, we all have to provide evidence of institutional effectiveness in producing the student learning outcomes that we aim to achieve. And so all of these issues indicate that student learning data are important assets to our institutions. We learned from our work on Beyond the Classroom Matters that we actually can improve our student learning data. We began with the co-curriculum, but it seems like the same principles can be applied to the academic curriculum. We can make student learning visible in institutional data and transcripts. Doug and I appreciate your viewing our session. We hope to see you in person next time at a future EDUCAUSE conference. Please feel welcome to send comments or questions to either one of us. Thank you again.